most physical pain is psychosomatic. It's mental, emotional, but we don't think of it that way. It ends up being a distraction of our emotional pain because we're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. What can I do for my shoulder? What can I do for my shoulder? What can I do for my shoulder? Not thinking, what am I stressed out about mentally and emotionally that now my body is experiencing dis-ease?
Welcome to 𝗕𝗄𝗆 podcast, where I share with you the mindset, energetics, emotional intelligence, and habits required to transform your health and manifest your dream body. I'm your host, 𝗲𝗏𝗍𝗔, a 20-plus year fitness professional, lifelong entrepreneur, and I have self-healed my chronic pain and my emotional eating. And I am here to share with you the spiritual and the practical so you can transform your health and manifest your dream body.
This is episode 17 of 𝗕𝗄𝗆. And the topic that I'm going to share with you tonight is so cool because I'm going to read a post from February 14th, 2022, and then also give you a little bit of a context of why I was going to talk about this topic tonight, but then also how it goes into what I posted last year. So let me read what I wrote last year. The duality of the body and how to fall in love with it. We've been conditioned to believe the body is something outside ourselves, a thing we must do, change, and control, a thing that doesn't make us who we are. But we've also been conditioned to believe the body is us. If it doesn't look quite right, we don't deserve happiness and success. If it doesn't live up to out there expectations, we must be falling short. The body is a thing outside ourselves, but it's also a thing because of ourselves. It's a vehicle for our extension of source in the multi-layered, ever-expanding universe to reside in a human field. It's a manifestation of our thoughts and feelings. The ancients tell the story as well as science. Love, especially on this day, is to fall into resonance with it, to appreciate all its nooks and crannies, all the ways it knows how to function automatically based on its vibration in the field and chemicals in the cells. You are the most beautiful love story ever told. You are the Alpha and Omega. You are the Holy Trinity. So, this podcast tonight is about the union of self with the unified field of consciousness of God, of love, of masculine energy, of feminine energy, and us being the thing that is born of those two. And I had already planned on talking tonight about this. Let me look at what my show notes say, that we're going to talk about 3 topics here: separation of self and love, Heirogamic Union, and then feelings, thoughts, meanings, and attachments. And this is coming up because I've been having a conversation with a woman who has the body of my dreams. She has a 6-pack. She's in fitness. And we're in this Facebook group, and she posted a question to say, does anybody know about these karmic houses? Of which one of them that she asked questions about is the 12th house. And I myself am a Pisces sun. My sun sign is Pisces, and it's in the 12th house. And y'all know how depressed I've been and how I talk about this self-hate and everything and all this deep emotional work I've been doing. It's just in my DNA. It's just who I am. And so I've struggled so much with self-acceptance and self-love and being comfortable with myself, and have gone on this huge journey within my fitness career and within self-healing to like myself. And when the funny part of when she posted this is I had kind of made another growth cycle because I noticed my attachment style with men. And so I kind of knew my attachment style, but something happened where it was just so blatantly in my face where I was like, are you for real? And when you have these moments where you find a pattern that you're stuck in, and then you see all the ways that pattern has totally distorted your life of what you would truly rather have, it's just so mind-boggling and frustrating. Well, for me, I go to frustration, and then it's disorienting, and it's disorienting because our atoms are changing on a subatomic level because it's masculine energetics of a of a proton, and it's feminine energetics of an electron. And our choice to then make a new pattern is the neutron. So on a subatomic level, we become radioactive as we're making these changes with our thoughts and feelings and our behavior. And then also, like, you have different molecules of emotions secreting from your brain with these new feelings and new awareness. Your vibration changes. You have a different mirror come into your reality where you're getting confirmation, or you're noticing the contrast of like what doesn't fit anymore now that you can see the like negative attachment that you have to certain things in your life. So when you're in a growth cycle, it's very disorienting because all of these mechanics of your body, your atomic structure, your chemical profile of your cells, then how your genes are going to be expressing itself, how the vibrational level of your emotions is changing your field, your energetic field. So there is so much happening in a growth cycle. And a lot of times when we have a growth cycle, we take it out on our body. We over exercise or under exercise, we overeat, or we starve ourselves. And noticing these patterns for myself, I was in this space of like really feeling insecure also just about myself. So when I saw someone who is like a physical inspiration for me, someone who I've also compared myself against to think, if she has that body and she's in fitness and I don't have my shit together, there's my shame and where I'm not feeling like I could connect with her, like I'm not good enough to be friends with her. So here's this person that I have made a story about in my head, making a post about the 12th house. And I was like, maybe I can help because that's who I am. Like I can share with you how I've gone through these processes. So we've been like chatting, and she's helping me with like the next level of mindset to, to even look at my inflammation symptoms of how I'm working with food with my hepatonia constitution structure that I'm doing, that I talk about often. And then also like what it's going to take for me to get my 6-pack and also maintain it. So we're really helping each other. And one of the things that we've been talking about is how I look at pain in the body from the vibrational, emotional level. And so I feel like the reason why, like for the context of this, like you can go look up everything that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to try not to keep like validating with the studies of what I'm going to share with you. You could always reach out to me on Instagram or comment on my Facebook page. If you're listening to this on the replay on YouTube or the podcast player, you can always come back to my Facebook and post a question on this recording. I'm happy to answer a question for you. But basically, like with my like personal development and trying to love myself and figuring out how to heal pain and how to heal the relationship with food, plus what the activations are, because we're in a paradigm shift. It's like all of this stuff that I've already studied and have had in my human experience for this lifetime, coupled with what's stored in me energetically and chemically from my ancestors on the cellular genetic level. It's like, this is how I understand it. This is how I process it. This is what I'm going to share with you is how I've looked at science and spirituality and applied the two to do my own variation of internal work to love myself, to actually be okay with myself. And since I had this this growth cycle with looking at my attachment style, things have just been lining up of different tools to understand how to reprogram myself. And one of them is shame, and like how much time and how much of a warped mentality I have had being ashamed of being too much like my dad, too much like my mom, too many questions, too deep. Why do you have to complicate things? And I'm learning different ways that this shame has been distorting my thinking, and ways that like I didn't even really see the extent of how I was living in shame, because I always associated shame with sexual trauma, and I didn't have sexual trauma. So I just always felt like even ashamed that like my wounding was mental and emotional. So like I should have been able to get over it faster. So it's just really interesting. So it was really exciting for me to like have that external validation of the mirrored universe that me feeling bad about who I am is perfect to have this conversation with someone who's looking at the astrology chart of looking what the 12th house means as far as karma and past lives go. And that's just like, that's in my blood. Like that's my bones. That's who I am. So I want to share with you what I've been doing, to get to this point where I don't have the chronic pain. And my last big flare was in January. And I definitely know it was psychosomatic because it's like I spent a bunch of time and money last year to learn how to take my 22-year career and parse it up into scalable offers that can meet anybody's needs, from free, to $50 to $100 to, more long-term type stuff. Like, how can I take 22 years and disseminate it so that anybody on any budget can work with me and go as far as they want with me? So I've been focusing on that. And so then it was like when those, year-long commitments that I was in were coming to a close, it was like, okay, it's go time. Like 2023, Lauren, like you were putting one foot in front of the other immediately to now implement everything that you've learned. And so I know that there was part of a mental and emotional identity that was like freaked out about this, because the last time that like I worked really hard was when I was podcasting and when I had my neck injury. So there's fear in, am I going to be able to keep up with everything that I need to do on the computer to actually deliver the content? And will that be too much? So it was like a fear of doing the work, but also a fear of not doing the work. Because if I don't do it, I'm not going to grow. But if I do it, am I going to aggravate my neck? So I had a pretty big flare. I had a terrible period. Then I got sick, like with nasal stuff. So it was pretty intense. But then, like a couple weeks later, like I got over it and I was like, okay, I understand what happened here. How can I create more self-belief that I'm going to be able to do this, right? But then what happened afterwards was, I started with a migraine one day, and I was like, okay, wait, like I like the like swirly, I don't know if you get migraines, like, but sometimes they're like light, like little worms that you see in your vision. And for me, it's usually like pain and tension. But I started to get those like little swirlies, and I was like, oh, I'm about to get a migraine. I was like, wait a minute. This is psychosomatic. I know that this is psychosomatic. So I laid down and I was programming my subconscious mind. I was having thoughts and I was saying, I am healthy. Everything is fine. And I was going through a list of like really everything that's fine. And I think that a lot of people get tripped up on gratitude because it's like, we feel like we're supposed to like imagine, like make something imaginary that's not real, of like, I'm so grateful when like you're feeling like crap. But what it is that when we're feeling ungrateful, when we're in the feeling energy of ungratefulness, it's imagined problems. Because we could be, it's Valentine's Day, we could be single when we want to be in a relationship. And just because we want to be in a relationship and we're not, that dissonance, that separation is leading to a stress response in the mind-body system, because there's a separation, because there's a noticing of what I want and what I don't have. So when I was having this migraine, I went through the list of everything that's in my life. I don't have all the things that I would like to say, like in my 5-year plan or where I see myself a year from now. Those things aren't there, but that doesn't mean that what's going on now is bad. And we have to like rearrange how we're thinking about stress and how we're thinking about our unmet desires, and how energetically it's sending a signal of ungratefulness, which is why everybody says to be grateful. But to the conscious mind, you're like, why would I be grateful if I don't have the things I want? So when I was like applying that kind of logic to it, and I laid down and I was like, okay, like this is everything that's going great in my life. And then I started to tell my subconscious mind, I am perfect health. I am perfect health. I am united within. I am perfect health. Just over and over and over again. I'm not exaggerating. It was within 5 minutes, my vision returned to normal. So that's the level that I was able to reach. That's the first time I've done that as like thinking and feeling is my antidote for a physical symptom. It's like, usually it's like once the flare is there, you're flaring, and then you got to deal with it. You got to like wait it out, or like take a pain pill, or like whatever it is that you're going to do to try to give yourself some comfort. But this was, I feel the migraine coming on. I'm going to change my thoughts and feelings, and it went away. So what I'm going to share with you is kind of like the things that I know, that I've put together and that I've experienced within my own body as a 12th house Pisces sun. And so if you have chronic pain, this is something that you're going to want to listen to. Okay. So the first part of this is the separation of self and love. Now, I will kind of give you like places to go for context. So if you listen to the first and second episode of this podcast, you'll hear me mention Dr. John Sarno and the divided mind. And he's talking about it within the physical structure of the subconscious mind, cutting off a little bit of oxygen to various parts of the body to induce physical pain, to distract the person, the conscious thought from emotional pain. Because most physical pain is psychosomatic. It's mental, emotional, but we don't think of it that way. It ends up being a distraction of our emotional pain, because we're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. What can I do for my shoulder? What can I do for my shoulder? What can I do for my shoulder? Not thinking, what am I stressed out about mentally and emotionally that now my body is experiencing dis-ease? So with that thought in mind, that we actually have scientific research and data from a Western doctor. He passed away in 2016 or 2017, somewhere around there. With that information, I want you to expand with me into the 12th house, into the subconscious, into past and parallel lifetimes, into the unknown, into karma. Okay. So take a breath. Maybe even close your eyes if that's helpful. We have two bodies. We have the physical body that's on the physical universe side, and we have the non-physical body, which is in the non-physical universe. And that one has layers. So just like we have skin, fascia, let's see, skin, fascia, fat, muscle, bone, or I should say muscle and veins and arteries and nerves, and then bone marrow, how we have layers to our physical body, we have layers to the energy bodies. They're called subtle energy bodies. And they have different densities, like different shades of lightness, of light, in the varying dimensions of the universe. God. So when I've been on this like self-love journey, right? And if you've listened to me when I podcasted Love as a Verb in 2016, I was doing that, where I was interviewing people about the moment they realized loving themselves was essential to life, and then how they're the change they wish to see in the world, how they share that experience with other people to help other people walk a similar path. So I've been on a self-love journey my whole freaking life, and I've incorporated into my business for a long time. So this separation of self and love, what I feel it is on this energetic level, that's the subconscious, past, parallel, future lifetimes, karma thing, is that it's a separation of self, of the human body self, and then the unified field of love, which is God. And our idea of God, I believe, has gotten so distorted because of monotheistic religions that don't mention the female deity. We cannot have another human without a uterus, without an egg, without a sperm. It just doesn't happen. So for us to live thousands of years not knowing that there is a female energetic Godhead, they call it the Godhead, not knowing this, it cuts us off from the unified field, because the unified field is all, but most of our perception is that it's a male God. So when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at like, why like my life experience as a human was not that bad. Why do I have such deep, sad emotions that I feel like I have to, work so hard to get to a place of happiness? Like, why? And so when I looked at that and I was like, okay, well, wait, if we have a physical body and we have an energetic body, maybe the emotions that I'm dealing with aren't about me in this lifetime or about anything that I have consciously experienced, but it is actually stuff that my light body has experienced. So my soul on different dimensions, which relate to different times. So our body is dimensional, our light body is dimensional, but the dimensions are where your consciousness is, which is why like you have a psychic that like looks like they're looking up, but they're actually just like taking their well, I mean, maybe I feel like this is what they're doing, because I've kind of had some experiences like this where it's like you look up or you close your eyes because you're taking your focus off of the physical now of where you're stationed in 3D as the human that you are, so that you can actually like go into the thoughts and feelings, because the thoughts and feelings are what are the non-physical universe. So when we follow a thought and a feeling, we're actually able to like time travel. We're able to have a different consciousness. So we've got this unified field of love that has all of our information in it, the Akashic records, who we are on the soul, all the times our soul has had a physical experience. Love, God, the creative force, the life force energy that's in everything, that energy can't be created or destroyed. Love is what binds everything together. So when we have the human experience and we're born, we have a physical body that separates from the non-physical. And so self-love is actually this deep separation of ourself. Because the human experience is also to experience contrast and experience our own piece of consciousness having an experience. So it's like if we didn't incarnate, we would all still be in the unified field of love where there is no separation. Here we have perceived separation that as time goes on and we get stuck in our victim consciousness, we get stuck in karma, we don't fully return to love. We've got to like clean things up every time we get born again, we get incarnated. So this separation of self and love, the physical body and the non-physical body, is where we're going to go down this spiritual rabbit hole to look at why you might be having physical pain that doesn't have to do with this lifetime. And how you can use the emotions that you have in this lifetime to help you unlock those energetic ties, those energetic cords. Okay. So that was point number one, the separation of self and love, the separation of the physical body and the light body that's in the unified field of love. So the second thing that I want to talk with you about to put all this together is I'm going to give you the action plan of how to do this, but like, I feel like these are the three top concepts that you need to know to expand your mind out of the physical into the non-physical side. So point number 2 is Heirogamic Union. And Heirogamic Union is the divine marriage. And I've looked at and experienced a lot of different ways to interpret this. And I had a lot of anger with the religion wound when I saw that there was a female deity, that you have to have negative feminine energy. And I was really angry about it for a long time because I don't like systems that disempower people. I don't like anything that takes power from a person. And so religion to me is one of those things that has taken power from people because they've put God on a pedestal outside of the person. So I went through a lot of anger with that and looked into a lot of different material about Heirogamic Union. And the most favorite one that I found is actually through 𝗳𝗶𝗿𝗆, who at this point, his books are just reaching the 100-year mark. Like they were written like 1910 to 1930, I think. And he talks about Heirogamic Union just in terms of the brain, the conscious mind of masculine energy of doing and thinking, and the subconscious mind of feminine energy of the patterns and creating. Because the subconscious mind is secreting molecules of emotion of how you feel. And the subconscious mind, she's printing out a reality into the mirrored universe for you to experience your life. So it's the conscious mind that tells the subconscious mind what to do. And it's the subconscious mind that overrides the conscious thought or doing or action when the subconscious mind is polarized energetically in the opposite direction of whatever that conscious desire is. That's why like people have money issues. They want the money, but their imprint or their subconscious mind's storage system says, you can't be rich, rich people are greedy, whatever it is. The reason why the subconscious mind is not so easy to work with from the conscious mind is because she's learning who you be pre-birth, right? And then also in your human conditioning, mostly from that 0 to 7, where you're just an absorbent sponge. And then also from a significant emotional event. She stores everything. So it's like our Heirogamic union of conscious and subconscious is separate. It's divorced. And whatever it is that we learned in that 0 to 7 or from a significant emotional event, the unconscious is what's telling the subconscious what to print. So it's like we got turned upside down. We're in an inverted reality created by ourselves, created by the mechanics of the brain. So the Heirogamic union is self-love. It's being able to be connected to God the Father and God the Mother. And 𝗲𝗷𝗿 Goddard in his books, he actually quotes scripture, which like really helped me kind of like come full circle with the Christian Bible. I grew up with the Christian Bible. And when I did like ancestry work, then I went into my Hungarian pagan ancestors who were genocided and tortured for the Catholic Church. So I went through those karmic lessons. I also did them with my Jewish ancestors, who some of them made it out, some of them didn't, some of them there's no record of them. So I did all of that ancestry work because that's in me. When I read 𝗲𝗷𝗿 Goddard's books and he talked about, and he like quoted scripture and he was like, this, they're talking about the conscious mind of God the Father. This, they're talking about the subconscious mind of God the Mother. So it's actually in the Bible metaphorically. It's just been westernized and taken as literal. But it's a union within. So we have to be together and whole for us to not have pain. So number one, we've got that separation of the physical body and the non-physical body that's still in the united field of love. Then point number two, what I've just been talking about is the masculine energetics of the conscious mind, the feminine energetics of the subconscious mind, the Heirogamic holy marriage within the brain. And we get that union by clearing out what is the unconscious storage stuff. And I'll share with you like how you're going to do that. Okay. Point number three is feelings, thoughts, meanings, and attachments. So again, this is all leading up to how do you get out of chronic pain by looking at this from the non-physical universe. Okay. So our feelings are the meanings and stories that we make about an emotion. An emotion is just information. It's like a profiling system. So an emotion is two things. It's a vibration and it's also a molecule. So when we have these mental and emotional operating systems from 0 to 7 or from a significant emotional event, they are there to be the automated mechanism so that we can then focus on other things. Like there is a mental and emotional operating center for me to reach my hand forward, make a fist, and pull it back. But if I had to actually think about the mechanics of everything in my body, of my arm, my elbow, my joints, my skin, my tissue, my fascia, my fat, my veins, my arteries, my tendons, my ligaments, my joints, my cartilage. If I had to think about all of those things just to do that with my hand, there's really not going to be a lot of space to focus on anything else. So these mental and emotional operating systems are the meaning and the feeling that we make about an emotion. And when we're looking at emotion as two things, the vibration, that's part of like the sonar system, the heebie-jeebies, our spidey sense to know if something is safe or not. It's the vibration in the field that lets you know this is safe or unsafe. And then the chemical emotional part is how then your genes express themselves. So if you have a sedentary lifestyle or you're eating a bunch of junk and it gives you like a big endorphin spike or it makes you feel low, like have you ever eaten something and actually you end up feeling sad later? It's toxic. So then your brain starts to secrete these molecules of emotion. You feel worse because now the cells are in the feeling molecular state. And because it's all connected, they legitimately send a neurotransmitter up to your brain to ask what this is. And if the brain can identify that's a sad molecule, then all of the memories that you have and all of the meanings that you have about sadness are going to fire. And then you're going to be in a mood. And then when you're in the mood, because now you're noticing sad thoughts or sad meanings and sad stories and everything in your brain that relates to sad, now you're compounding it because now the subconscious mind is going to release more of those molecules of emotion. And then now you're cementing it. Like I'm talking about in the beginning of the podcast, how I just had a growth cycle and now I'm putting in a new mental and emotional operating system. When we have the cells in a toxic chemical and they send the question to the brain finds a reason, we acknowledge the reason, and the brain secretes more of those molecules or maybe even worse ones. We just created a compound effect. We just created the karma wheel again. Because karma is about emotions and thoughts and actions and your level of consciousness. So you just created that again. So the meanings are the things that create attachments. Because you got to click over here to the non-physical universe side, which there's platonic solids. You got to go look up the platonic solids. There's sacred geometry. Matter gets built off of sacred geometry and platonic solids. This is the anti-material universe side, the non-physical side. It's thoughts and feelings. So we are creating these geometric shapes and like we're leaving them in space and time. This is the soul fragment, or when people talk about doing soul retrieval. There's parts of our light body that get stuck in different dimensions of different spaces and time in which you have consciousness of, is whether you're focused over there. So like you have consciousness that, I was going to say the TV, but like, I feel like that's not a good example. You have consciousness of your refrigerator, but maybe you don't know what the contents of it is because you're not looking at it with it open right now. So like you can't have it, like maybe you can, but like you probably don't have the contents of your refrigerator memorized to then rattle it off to me if I were to ask you exactly what is in your refrigerator, but you know there's a refrigerator. So when you become available to this discussion and you're a person who is expanding their awareness that there's something more to do with life than just this physical one, that's what it is. And so for me, I think that like my years in fitness and how like I learned Pilates from Ron Fletcher, and he learned from Joe and Clara Pilates. And he would always talk to us about the negative space. When he was teaching us, we had to wear all black skin tight clothes. And when we would do an exercise, he would like, you know, we'd be in the classroom and we'd look at ourselves in the mirror, and our body would be in a side bend with an arm over here and a leg bent over here and a toe pointed and whatever. And so he would say, look at the negative space. Don't look at the body. Look at the negative space between each ear and each arm. Look at the negative space between the hip and the shoulder. Look for symmetry, look for the shape. And so my conscious mind looks for negative space of shapes when I'm looking at somebody's body to see if they're doing it right. My energetic who I am as a 12th house Pisces sun who's doing karma work this lifetime, that conceptual stuff of how the energetic body is getting stuck in the non-physical universe side, and that it's stuck because of our feelings and the meanings that we've made about emotion, which is chemical and vibrational, that allowed me to then process my emotions, look at the stories that were coming to mind, look at the stories in my heritage and be like, what would it mean to be genocided in the name of God? That's some deep shit. What would it be like to be a government experiment in a concentration camp? What would it be like to walk into a gas chamber and not coming out? What would it like? You don't have to know all the things about your lineage, but what happened for me, like with the religion one, was that I already knew I had deep anger about systems that disempower people. And I already knew growing up in a Christian and a Jewish home that I always had questions, and I would like get in trouble sometimes at certain churches for asking questions because they would say that mean I didn't have faith. So I always had questions about the church. It was always ever since I can remember. And then it wasn't until I was talking with a client who did ancestral work, and she was like, so, you know, like Hungary was blah, 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 blah. And she tells me the story about Hungary. And I was doing my own decolonization work to decolonize myself. And the colonizers were at one time pagan. So there's the victim, the cycle of abuse played out on disempowering people. So then it was like, oh, now I get it. So then I allowed myself to go down a wormhole and like looking at stuff about the church and looking at stuff about genocide and actually like looking at it and being like, that is how I feel. And so what I'm going to do now is like kind of get into the action point of it, that how I looked at these emotions as a vibrational thing, right? Because the vibration is the anti-material, non-physical side. The chemical vibration is here with the physical body. So if I had, this was my process. I'm thinking to myself, I have these deep, dark, sad emotions. And if I look up my natal chart or my human design and my gene keys, I'm like, yep, there they are. So I had these emotions and I followed them down wherever they led me. And they led me into an exploration of my heritage. They led me into an exploration of constructs that I saw as disempowering, right? Because if that's my thing, I don't like systems that disempower people. I looked at the constructs in our world that disempowered people that pissed me off. That's how I knew I had a connection to them. And the more that we release the emotion ties, the emotions, the more the body gets free, the more the tension goes away, the less of the degenerative molecules of emotion are going to get secreted. But like I said, these things aren't necessarily what is happening in your now lifetime. And you follow them by looking at what pisses you off in the world, because the world structures are changing. They're breaking apart for a reason, because we're going into another evolution of consciousness. You can look that up in like multiple areas. Everybody's saying it. So it's like, look at me trying to validate. So if you have pain in your body and it's like, you just can't get rid of it, you've done inner child work, you've done personal development work, it might not be about this lifetime. It might be where your energetic body is stuck. And it's like, when I saw this concept for myself of like, oh, part of my energetic body is stuck over here. And I saw it as like being ripped apart. I was like, no wonder I have so much tension. It feels like I'm just like trying to move forward, but like I have all of this stuckness over here. So I'm just being ripped. So when I started to look at that as an emotion is vibration, it's a feeling. A thought is energetic, it's frequency, it's information. These are masculine and feminine energetics in the field. When they're locked into place of a thought and a feeling, creating a meaning or a story attached to a time of our consciousness of that soul, then that's what I can go work on. What is the feeling? It's energized by an emotion that I'm feeling now. And in my now lifetime, where can I change that emotion? What's the opposite one? And what can I listen to? What can I throw away and get rid of and rearrange? What can I reschedule? I looked at ways that I could take the emotion that I felt, that I decided was stuck. Like when I made that connection, I was like, I think it's because there's a part of my light body that's stuck with this emotion. How can I program my entire life, my thoughts, my feelings, what I'm listening to, what I'm surrounding myself with the opposite emotion? Because then we're neutralizing the energy. We're taking that electron of the negative emotion, plugging in positive neutrons with our neutral choice. We're going to spout on the atomic level extra electrons that the atom doesn't need. We become radioactive. We change our energetic field. We release those ties. We find all of the grieving process that goes with bringing that soul fragment back, getting a piece of your light body back. And then you recalibrate and you make a new mental and emotional and physical operating system. You build an awareness of this action, this way that I'm doing this thing, and this relationship that I've formed with this thing or with another person is actually reinforcing this old energetic of where my light body was stuck. I can't do that anymore. For me, it was seeing that what I was doing with my voice, like the words that I was saying and the things that I was actually doing, were like recording to people, recording to events, to environments, to things, to experiences. And so when I looked at the cord and I looked at being stuck in that non-physical side, I looked at it as a measurable emotion. And whatever came to mind, like whatever thought came to mind or a memory that came to mind or a story that played out in my mind, I was like, oh, that's what happened to me at some point. And I would just go through the grieving process, go through instilling the better feeling emotion, going through changing what my habits were that were that negative emotional resonance that were reinstating that stuckness or that cord. the way you can do this, I'm going to just keep everything I just said. Okay. Everything I just said, but I'm going to keep going back to bodyenergetics.com, because bodyenergetics.com is where you sign up for my 28-day energetic calibration, where I'm going to help you move your energy with a couple of breaths in the beginning of the meditation. And then I'm going to take you through brain and heart coherence breathing, where I'm going to guide you. And then also there is a segment, and everything's time stamped on the YouTube. There's a segment where it's just 3 minutes of beautiful music playing with 3 different images, so that you can just get it down to 3 minutes a day, because that's all you need to do. It's protocol from Heart Math Institute that measures brain and heart coherency. When we get our heart and our brain together, we think creatively, we slow down the trigger to reaction time of whatever our behavior is. We fuse the light body and we fuse the non-physical body and the physical body together. We turn on our high heart. We expand our consciousness. Like, brain and heart coherence breathing does it all. So I'm going to wrap this up. You're probably going to have to re-listen to this, especially if you're suffering with chronic pain, because I just dropped some deep, deep stuff on you. And you can follow, what I suggested of like changing your environment, changing your habits, changing what you're listening to, because that's all going to help release the emotional ties on the non-physical universe side. And then also do the brain and heart coherence breathing, especially if you've done no internal work and this sounded totally crazy, or like you're on like step 1 of like expanding your awareness that there's more than just this physical reality. Go to the brain and heart coherence breathing at bodyenergetics.com, because that's going to guide you. Because then you have 28 days of emails, like really short emails that you're going to get every single day for 28 days at the same time that you opted into my email list. So make sure that you say yes when you get the email from 𝗬𝗹𝗲 that says, yes, I want to be on this mailing list. I want to get these emails from Lauren. Whenever you click that second opt-in, check your spam folder, you'll get an email every day at the same time that you clicked on that button to help guide you through it. It's so good. It's so good. It's 3 minutes a day. So thank you so much for being here. It's February 14th. It's Love Day. I hope you had a great day or a great evening or whatever it is. And thanks for listening. Let me look really quick at what next week is. So next week, I will be solo on Monday, February 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but at night on the 21st at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I will be here with 𝗕𝗿𝗄, and she's just such a lovely person. She has a super high emotional intelligence. She's just so grounded. I just love her so much. So you're really going to love the conversation that we have. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful, please share it on social media and tag me at It's Lauren 𝗕𝗓𝗔 and at 𝗕𝗵𝘆𝗀. You can just search my name, Lauren 𝗕𝗓𝗔, on the IG, and you should find both of those handles, no problem. I'm going to leave you with a few little snippets of the ladies who were in the very first Queen's Gambit with me. The Queen's Gambit is my year-long transformation where I give you all the coaching you need for mindset, emotions, habits, diet, exercise, and self-care.
First of all, thank you for just giving of yourself and allowing us to be in this space today. That's been really amazing to just see like how much you're giving to us. So thank you for that.
Because I'm not gonna go shame myself anymore. I'm not gonna go fucking judge myself. I'm fucking over it. I'm so fucking done with that old game. It's just an old game. I'm not gonna play anymore.
Adding upper body has actually been really good. I enjoy it because I've always been so scared of it.
The energetic stuff like has been really great for me because I think that's like what my like soul was craving. Like I've been wanting to know more, but like where do I start? So this has been super great.
new identity, new person, new body.
And it was like I could never get past certain plateaus, but this makes so much sense.
Exercises go really well. It's so much fun to have finally a gym.
I remember because it was so significant to me. That was after COVID. It was really difficult for me to go back because I had gained weight. I felt really heavy after having been lighter and through COVID and not working out. That day was really nice because you like encouraged me to like continue. When you told me, you're like, you're strong, sweetie, like you can go heavy. And I was like, really? That like helped me just kind of develop that confidence.
And I'm like, well, I'm gonna take responsibility for the mistake, but I'm not gonna like shaming or blaming or judging. It's not gonna help me take the responsibility. It just makes it like harder. So why the F should I? Like make it hard for yourself, come on.